18 minutes to 8. That's Cian Evans there. Take Me Home. Now, the controversial upper house reforms the WA government is trying to push through the Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council has been going through the Parliament. It has caused some concerns for regional areas, and to discuss the changes to the upper house and also a new stance in regards to Australia Day, I'm speaking with Wilson Tucker, leader of the Daylight Savings WA Party. He joins us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Tucker. Thank you for coming on to ABC Goldfields.
Good morning. How are you?
Very, very well. Now, we have spoken to you before about the upper house voting system, the changes. Has the government reached out to you at all to discuss this and hear your concerns?
No, they haven't, and that is certainly part of the problem. They really haven't been very consultative about these changes. They appointed a expert panel to look into it. This panel was given very narrow terms of reference in terms of what they were going to look into. And there is a saying in politics that you don't form a committee unless you know the outcome of that committee, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. This panel was given effectively marching orders to overhaul the system and put in place recommendations for one vote, one value, which is effectively silencing regional voices and going to focus concentration in those metro areas, which will effectively help Labor in the next election. They weren't consultative with minor parties or the community, especially the regional community, and it's a calculated change to really stack the odds in their favour.
Knowing that this legislation will get through because of the state of play in the upper house and the lower house, have you sought to any changes that you'd like to see to the legislation?
Look, not really. I don't think you can really amend this bill. I think that the bill itself really needs to be thrown out, and we need to start again. I can't see any amendments to this bill that would be digestible by regional WA. It's effectively going to move to a single electorate across WA and have 37 representatives. It's going to focus the concentration on those metro areas and really silence regional voices.
But could there be any safeguards put in place? And again, and this is a spitball, and I've talked before with other people, is that say if a party receives 10 seats in the upper house, that 5 of them have to be based in regional WA.
Look, potentially, I think if we put amendments in to really try and ensure that there is regional representation and that all MPs aren't focused and based in Perth, then potentially that could be a good change. I think when we look at the reform of the upper house, if we reduce the number of seats in the upper house, and that triggers a referendum, so a vote by the people, which I think is a good way to go. It's very consultative, and you get through the input. What we're effectively doing here is removing regional representation, but it doesn't trigger the same referendum. It's just a sort of a show of hands in Parliament. And like you said, Labor have the numbers to really push through whatever they want, which I think is very dangerous in this case. So I really think we should be having a referendum on the issue and focusing and having a more broader conversation in terms of what the bill and what this reform should look like.
Wilson Tucker is my guest. He's the leader of the Daylight Savings WA Party. He's joining you this morning to, discuss these upper house changes, which I think the legislation is currently in the lower house, hasn't passed yet, but will soon be going to the upper house. Look, you came out with a press release yesterday, which really did catch the eye of many people, and that was to change the date of Australia Day. It was a very well-worded press release. Why do you believe we should change the date of Australia Day from the 26th of January?
I think it's important to have a national holiday. Australia is a beautiful country, and I think it's important to celebrate it. And this national holiday, Australia Day, is a good opportunity to spend time with family and friends and burn things on the barbecue. However, it's not a celebration for all groups, and I think we should be choosing a more culturally inclusive date and not marginalising the Indigenous folks. It's been controversial since it became a national holiday. and it continues to be today. I think there's majority support with the younger generation to change the date, and I think it is picking up popularity, and it's just a case that we should be putting pressure on the federal government and lobbying them to choose a new date that everyone can really get behind.
It is. It celebrates the first fleet arriving in New South Wales. WA doesn't really have a big connection with that. Do you feel like with a new rise of secessionism amongst WA, that having a national holiday may stop this fragmenting of states?
Yeah, I think so. And certainly there was a recent poll that suggested that people in WA really identify as West Australians more than they do Australians, which I thought was interesting. And certainly with the pandemic as well and being sort of locked away in, Fortress WA, I think there is that sort of more state-based identity happening. And the national holiday is a really good way of us all coming together. But I think it is important that all groups can really get behind it and celebrate together without the controversy sort of looming. Absolutely.
Is there a date that you'd like to see, that you'd put forward?
I did mention, so 19th of January seems like a pretty good date. I think there's a few calls for it, but I really think it's not so important about the date itself, but really making sure that the federal government is consultative with Indigenous groups, and we all choose a day that is culturally sensitive, and make sure that we can all get behind it. So less about the date itself and making sure that we're all happy with it.
Look, as long as we have our barbecues, our outdoor cricket or whatever sport or beach that you'd like to go to for the day, I'm sure a lot of us would be happy with it. But thank you very much there, Wilson Tucker. Thank you for joining us here on ABC Goldfields. I'm sure we'll be chatting again very shortly. But look after yourself and chat again soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's Wilson Tucker there, the leader of the Daylight Savings Party in WA, a member of the mining and pastoral region as well. He'll be joining us throughout the shows, I'm sure, in the coming months. And thank you to Terry in Kalgoorlie, who's sent in a text. Ivo, now that Mark McGowan has abused his power and introduced one vote, one ballot. Well, he hasn't abused his power. He's got the mandate there at a state level. Is he going to lobby the federal government to reduce the number of senators from WA based on population across Australia and reallocate those to Victoria and New South Wales? Well, Terry, I love my politics, and the problem with the federal Senate is that they're supposed to represent WA's interests, all 12 senators. And when the Constitution was formed, all states were given the same amount of senators because they would look after their own states' rights. Unfortunately, it's turned into party politics, and you've got the Labor, Liberal and all other members who then vote on party lines, not what's for the best of WA. So I don't think you can put the two together, one state-based upper house members and senators that go to Canberra, because in a true system, all 12 senators that are selected to the upper house or to the Senate in Canberra would vote for everything that is right for WA, whatever political party that they would go to. But I could have a whole show on that but thank you very much, Terry, for joining us here. Look, after 8 o'clock,